How to troubleshoot WordPress Ajax errors. From time to time, you'll inevitably encounter a frustrating WordPress Ajax error where the user clicks on a button or tries to submit a form and nothing happens. It's most likely a JavaScript error, maybe related to a blocked Ajax call on the server or somewhere in between. There's several possible common issues that are happening around WordPress Ajax calls. The JavaScript variable called Ajax URL is not defined. Usually that's the case when the user is on the public site. And also there could be a plugin or a theme that is unloading the jQuery version that ships with WordPress and loads whatever the version they want. Maybe they have a full-featured theme that has lots of animations and things like that and needed the latest version of jQuery, but that may cause issues. Another possible problem might be when the admin Ajax PHP file, which we'll talk about in a minute, returns 0. That means that there's no active callback to handle the Ajax request defined by the action parameter. This could be caused by a plugin or a code that has been removed, or the plugin is deactivated, and that's why it can't process any requests. Another interesting error is when WordPress receives the Ajax request successfully, but at some point the request returns 500 internal error. Usually that's the case when the function that processes that Ajax call calls a function that doesn't exist. For example, when that Ajax call starts doing its thing, processing the request, and then it tries to access, let's say, a function that is defined by another plugin, for example, advanced custom fields, and if that plugin is inactive, then that function is not available and PHP crashes the whole site. Another possible explanation for WordPress Ajax issues are theme or plugin conflicts, and another and the last possible reason that I thought of is a security plugin or anti-spam plugin or web firewall that's blocking for some reason the access to that file. The next section is understanding the WordPress Ajax endpoint. WordPress uses the admin Ajax file located in WP admin area. It's in the folder rather. Maybe it was initially planned to be used only for the admin area, but on the public side it's been used a lot as well. Every plugin or theme that needs to register or start processing Ajax requests, it needs to execute or hook into two functions. The first one is for logged in users and the second one is for non logged in users. I highly recommend that you use one function or one method. That way things are centralized, you don't have too many duplicated code, and you can have whatever checks you need here in this function or method. And how to find the Ajax error on the front end. Developer tools are your friends. Every browser has them. I'm going to switch quickly to the second tab shortly. It usually looks like this, and there's many requests that are showing like this. There's several tabs that are very important. The console, the network, and then when you click on network, it's going to give you more tabs here that you can filter. But let's open the developer tools. You can press F12 or right click and then inspect. Then in console there's some errors. Let's clean them and let's refresh the page. Let's see what's happening here. There's a little bit of logging here, and if we go to network, there's so many requests that are generated here. Ajax requests are XHR or fetch. You can filter by those, but you have to remember to switch it back to all. And we are interested in admin Ajax. That's the response that we're checking here. It seems there was a request and it was this action. There's a nonce, and WordPress added additional pieces of data that was sent, and then that's the response that we've got. Usually that's on success or on error, it's a JSON object. If there's a problem, it's probably going to be 0, or it will be warnings, or even an empty text. As you saw, we went to the networking tab and we clicked on that XHR or fetch. Depending on the browser, you'll see the same name, but mostly it will be HR. And for the backend errors, so the first thing is to check the front end, and the second, which I highly recommend also to check, is the backend. You need to start or open up your favorite FTP program or use your hosting file manager, and then navigate to content folder, which is in the public HTML or www or htdocs folder, which are also called document root. You may need to enable the WordPress debugging. There's an article for that. If it hasn't been updated, then you need to update, or basically you edit the WordPress WordPress config file, and then add those lines. This is generally a good idea. Generally, it's a good idea to have display on, or like true or false. But what I like to do is like this, conditionally. I like to display the errors only when it's not an Ajax error. That way, when the page loads, you will see the errors, but when there's an Ajax request, that won't be displayed. If they're displayed, it's going to break the variable that we just saw here. If there's additional information, it's that JSON object, it's no longer going to be a valid one. Here, if you need to definitely check if it's an Ajax call, you need to do that. There's possible HTTP errors, which could be if the request is blocked, then you should see that kind of error, and maybe this could be accompanied with like a 0 that we just talked about. 404, maybe the location to the Ajax endpoint is not correct. Internal server error, definitely need to check that debug log of WordPress, and also maybe the server logs. There you should see information about function call, maybe look for fatal error or something like that. And 503, service unavailable. For this one, you need to talk to your hosting. You shouldn't be seeing that kind of error that often. Usually it's when the server is overloaded. Sometimes websites, they have multiple servers. One is a very small and efficient one that handles the images and the JavaScript and CSS, and there's a backend server that does the heavy lifting and additional processing, and it sends the data back to the first one. So you need to check with your hosting provider to see what's happening, and also it's good to include the possible errors, or copy and paste or take screenshots, and also explain the steps that you took to see that error. The support needs to be able to reproduce that error. And in conclusion, troubleshooting WordPress Ajax requests can be overwhelming sometimes because there's multiple moving parts, from PHP to servers to databases and front-end stuff. I highly recommend that you use some sort of like a staging site. This could be a service like our service, that would be Sandbox, or setting up something like a staging site on your server or on a separate server. It's totally up to you. It's good to do that troubleshooting on a staging site rather than on a live site, because you don't want to crash it and disrupt your visitors' visits and work. Thanks for watching. And in order to get to this article, you need to go to wpsandbox.net/1316 and have a great day. Bye.